Hello everyone, and today we're going to learn about completing the squares, both the long way and the shortcut way. I just put shortcut so it'd grab your attention. But again, we're going to be evaluating things using decimals and not actually using the radicals. Alright, so how to complete the squares. So the first thing I got to show you is the long way to do this thing, okay? So first things first, here's our problem. We're going to have x squared plus 6x minus 2 is equal to 4. And you were asked to solve this thing using completing the squares. So our first step is to move our constant to the other side. Now our constant, or our c value, is this guy right here. So again, we're going to add 2 over. Okay. So we now get x squared plus 6x is equal to 6. Okay. Step 2, divide everything by the coefficient of a. Now again, a would be the number in front of the square. But again, notice there's no number there. There's really a 1. So again, if I divide everything by 1, it doesn't really do anything for us. So we're okay there. Step 3, take the square half of the b term. So our new c will be b divided by 2 squared, and add that value to both sides of the equation. Now this is the most confusing part of completing the square. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our b value. That's this guy right here. So our new c value will equal b divided by 2 squared. Or in this case, we're going to do 6 divided by 2 squared, or 3 squared, which is 9. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this 9 and we're going to add it where the old c value was. But again, if I just add 9 to one side of an equation, it screws up the entire equation. So you have to add 9 to the other. Okay? So I now get x squared plus 6x plus 9 is equal to 15. Alright, so our next step, factor the quadratic equation and make perfect square binomials. So we're talking about this part right here. This part we can factor using PS2 or whatever method you like. Product is positive 9, the sum is positive 6. So the two numbers that multiply to 9 but add to 6 are positive 3 and positive 3. So we have x plus 3 and x plus 3 is equal to 15. Or we should properly write this as, x plus, that looks bad. Try that again. X plus 3 squared equals 15. Now that we have this, we're now going to take the square root of both sides. And we're going to evaluate this guy to 2 decimal places. So when I square root a square, these undo each other. So we're now left with x plus 3 equals plus or minus. And now we're going to take the square root of 15. So again, on your calculator, do the square root of 15. And you get 3.8729, blah, 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 blah. We're going to round it to 2 decimal places, so 3.87. Okay? Now, after we get that, now we're just going to solve the rest of this equation. So we're going to minus the 3's. We're going to park that in front. So we're going to have x equaling negative 3 plus or minus 3.87. But again, we are not done. I'm going to need a little more room, so let me do this. Because now, realize there's a positive solution, x positive, and there's a negative solution because of this plus or minus symbol. So the positive answer says we're going to do negative 3 plus 3.87, which is 0.87. The negative says we're going to do negative 3 minus 3.87, or negative 6.87. And there is your solution. These are your 2 solutions to this quadratic equation. Alright, so let's look at another one. Okay. So first thing I'm going to do, I need to move the c value to the other side, step 1. So it's minus 4 x squared minus 8x equals negative 2. Okay? Next thing, divide everything by the coefficient in front of the square. Well, there isn't one except the number 1, and that's not going to do much for us, so we're okay. So now we're going to take the square half of the b value. So the new c value equals b divided by 2 squared, or negative 8 divided by 2 squared, or negative 4 squared, which is positive 16. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 16 and I'm going to put it here. And I'm also going to put it here. It's got to go on both sides to keep the equation in balance. Alright, so our next step, let's clean this up. So we're going to get x squared minus 8x plus 16 is equal to, and that's going to be 14. Okay. Now, next step says to factor this. So using our PS2, our product is positive 16. The sum is negative 8. So the two numbers that do this are negative 4 and negative 4. Okay. So we're going to factor this as x minus 4 times x minus 4 is equal to 14. Or, more properly, we have x minus 4 squared equals 14. Alright, I'm going to need to scooch this a little bit. I'm going to need a little more room. Oops. So we can see our steps. Alright, now our next step. Okay, we're going to now take the square root of both sides. X minus 4 equals plus or minus. Don't forget that plus or minus. And then we do square root of 14 on our calculator. You get 3.741. So 3.74 will be our two decimal places. Then from here, we're going to now start solving by adding by 4. So x equals 4, that should be a plus, plus or minus 3.47. Alright, so now remember folks, there's two answers to show us here. The x positive says we do 4 plus 3.47, which is 7.47. The x negative says we're going to do 4 minus 3.47, which is going to be, when you subtract that out, you're going to get 0.53. And here are our two answers to our quadratic equation. Alright, I'll work another one with you, and then from there I'll let you try one on your own, and let's see how you do. Okay, so I'm going to work this one with you again. Alright, so first thing I do, I move the constants. So let's add the 3. X squared minus 10x is equal to negative 3. Alright. Next step, divide everything by the coefficient a, if possible. Well, we don't have that here, so we're all set. Alright, let's get our square half. So our new c value will equal b divided by 2 squared, or negative 10 divided by 2 squared, which is negative 5 squared, or 25. So plus 25 there, plus 25 here. So I now have a new equation of x squared minus 10x plus 25 is equal to 22. Okay, now we're going to factor this. So again, using our PS2, two numbers that multiply to 25 but add to negative 10 is x minus 5 and x minus 5. Or we should write that properly as x minus 5 squared equals 22. Okay, so now let's take the square root of 22. Alright, so square root this. X minus 5 equals plus or minus. Now square root of 22 is 4.69. Okay. So now let me give myself some room here. Okay, now we're in the step of solving. So I'm going to add the 5. So x equals 5 plus or minus 4.69. So now our x positive solution says we do 5 plus 4.69. So when I add that together, I get 9.69. Okay, now we'll do the negative side. Okay, so let's do the negative. X negative says 5 minus 4.69. So when I subtract that, I get 0.31. Okay? All right, here's one on your own. Actually, no, I take that back. I didn't give you one to do. I'm actually going to show you the shortcut now. So, shorter way, I call it the Kyle method because a student named Kyle is the one who showed this to me, and it's really, really cool. So I liked it so much, I decided to name this way after him. Now, the first two steps are going to remain the same, okay? So first thing we're going to do, we still have to move the c away. So we're going to add the 3. X squared minus 4x is equal to 7. Okay, that step doesn't change. All right, now, next thing, divide everything by the coefficient of a if you need to, but again, there's nothing there. So we don't have to worry about it. This is really a 1. Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. Step 3, divide the b value by 2 and place the answer in squared parentheses. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of skip the b divided by 2 squared part, and we're going to go right to the factoring component. What we're going to do is we're going to take this and divide it by 2. So it's x minus 2 squared is equal to 7. Okay. So in our squared half thing from before, folks, this is the half. We're going to do like a half square kind of thing instead. Alright, so now that I have that, our next step is we're going to square the number in the parentheses and add it to the other side. So I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to square it, so negative 2 squared is positive 4, and I'm going to move that and add it to the other side of my equation. Okay? So I'm now going to have x minus 2 squared is equal to 11. Now we're going to take the square root. Now we're in the beginning the solving component. So take the square root. X minus 2 equals plus or minus. Okay. So square root 11 is rounded to 3.32. And our last step, whoop, that should be a 2. And now our last step says we're going to solve this just by adding the 2 like we did before. So x equals 2 plus or minus 3.32. Okay. And let's finish this thing off. So we're going to do our x positive. So 2 plus 3.32 is 5.32. X negative says we do 2 minus 3.32, which is going to be negative 1.32. And there it is. A little bit easier, I think. I liked it. So let's try another one. Alright, so again, I will work this one with you. So first things first, let's add the 5. We still have to move that away. So x squared minus 8x is equal to 13. Okay. Our next step, divide by the lead coefficient of a. Well, we don't have that here, so I don't have to worry about that. So now we're going to take make our square parentheses, and we're going to take this guy and divide by 2. So x minus 4. So there's the half part. Okay. Now for the squaring part, so we're going to take negative 4 and square it. You get plus 16. So now you have x minus 4 squared is equal to 29. Alright, so now let's take the square root. So x minus 4 equals plus or minus, and we take the square root of 29. You get 5.39. Okay. And now finish it up. Let's add 4s. So x equals 4 plus or minus 5.39. Okay. So now I'm going to solve this. The x positive says we have 4 plus 5.39, which is 9.39. X negative says we're going to do 4 minus 5.39, which is negative 1.39. And there are your two solutions. Alright, so I'm going to do this one with you one more time, and then after that I will give you a couple to try on your own, and then that'll be it. So here we go. Move the c value, so plus 4. 4. X squared minus 2x equals 2. Alright, next thing, divide everything by the lead coefficient of a. Well, we don't have that again, so I don't have to worry about that. So now we're going to take our parenthesis. We're going to take this guy, divide it by 2. So x minus 1 squared. Okay. Now we're going to do the squaring part. So we're going to take negative 1 and square it, which is positive 1. So x minus 1 squared is equal to 3. Okay. Take the square root. X minus 1 equals plus or minus. Now again, we take the square root of 3, and you get 1.73. Okay. Now we add the 1's. X equals 1 plus or minus 1.73. Now we have to do our positive and negative solution set. So the x positive says 1 plus 1.73 is 2.73. Let me get rid of that little dab there. I'm sure it's going to drive somebody crazy. So there's our negative. We go 1 minus 1.73, which is negative 0.73. And there you have it. Alright, why don't you give this one a try on your own. I'll give you about a minute or two to try it. And you can leave the tape running. And I'll be back in a minute, and we'll definitely go over this one. So good luck. Alrighty folks, I'm back. So let's get a move on this question. Alright, so first things first, I'm going to move the c value. So I'm going to add the 6. X squared minus 12x is equal to 3. Alright, next step. Next step, we are going to divide by the lead coefficient. But again, there isn't one, so we don't have to worry about that. So let's take our parentheses, set them up. And again, I'm going to take this guy, divide it by 2. Alright, So I'm going to get x minus 6 squared is equal to 3. Okay. Now, the square component, let's square this. So you get plus 36. Okay. So we're going to get, oops, let me get rid of that. That looks awful. All right, here we go. So x minus 6 squared is equal to 39. All right, solve this thing. Take the square root. X minus 6 equals plus or minus, now the square root of 39. You get 6.244, so 6.24, because remember we're only going to two places. Okay, now we're going to add the 6. So x equals 6 plus or minus 6.24. Alright, so now let's get our two answers. So the x positive says we do 6 plus 6.24, which is 12.24. The x negative says we're going to do 6 minus 6.24. So when I do that out, I get negative 0.24. And there you have it. Now this one I definitely want to work with you because something is definitely different, and it is this guy right here. But again, it is not a big deal. Alright, step 1, move the constant away. So it's at 8s. Okay, so 2x squared, okay, plus 12x is equal to 6. Alright. So now from here, folks, our next step, we are now going to divide everything by that lead coefficient. So divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. So now x squared plus 6x is equal to 3. And now we're back to the way it always was. So again, now take this, divide by 2. So x plus 3 squared is equal to 3. Now from here, folks, we are now going to take the square root. Oh, wait a minute. No, we don't. No, we don't. I lied. Our next step is we're going to square this thing, right? Thank you for everybody yelling at me saying, hey, no square root yet. So we do x plus 3 squared is equal to 12. Now we square root. X plus 3 equals plus or minus. And now we take the square root of 12 to two decimal places. You get 3.46. And I'm going to have to scooch this a little bit. And now let's solve this. We're going to minus the 3. X equals negative 3 plus or minus 3.46. So the x positive says we are going to take negative 3 plus 3.46, which is 0.46. X negative says we're going to do negative 3 minus 3.46, which is negative 6.46. And that's it. Again, the only real difference and thing we had to worry about with this one compared to all the other ones we saw was that lead coefficient. So you just divide it away, and everything's as right as rain. All right, got another one here. I'll let you try this one on your own. Let's see how you do. I'll give you about a minute or so you can leave the tape running. And when we come back, I will talk about how to take this thing down. All right, so good luck. Alrighty folks, I'm back. Alright, so let's see what we can do here. First things first, let's minus the constant away, so minus the 4. X squared minus 2x is equal to 0. Alright, our next step, let's get the square half, or the half squared technically in the Kyle method. Now we're going to take this, divide by 2, so you get x minus 1 squared is equal to 0. Alright, now let's take negative 1 and square it, you get plus 1. So x minus 1 squared is equal to 1. Alright, now let's take the square root. X minus 1 equals plus or minus, not the square root of 1, is 1. Nice. Let's add the 1's. Okay, scooch this a little bit here. Alright, so x is equal to 1 plus or minus 1. So our x positive is 1 plus 1, which is 2. Our x negative is 1 minus 1, which is 0. Oh, that's awful. Let me make a better 0. There we go. That's better. That's it. Alright, so hopefully this video has definitely been very helpful. And again, if you like to use the long way of completing the square, you're more than welcome to. Again, if you like using the shortcut, use the shortcut. But again, it's all up to you. It's all how you see things, okay? So again, good luck out there. Have fun. And we'll see you in the next video.